She said someone wants it. Got all dressed up. I'm sorry.
I was like, wow.
Anybody lives here?
It's like, you don't have to live that one person.
I don't know.
Hopefully, don't play.
That would be by me.
You know, the goes off.
Everybody except for us.
The three of us are the losers. There's rebels over here.
Why are you rebels?
I haven't even ordered them.
I didn't
And this
do it
year, I'm
for
not even
anyone.
pretending to.
I cleaned up on Saturday. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I just got done with.
You know what I do? I do like the
finals.
text with Merry Christmas and picture.
I'm good. I heard that, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? What? Okay. Hi, Michael.
Two is. Well, one
It'll
guy's
be
new
1, 2,
about.
3.
Oh, it's food and something. So,
Are we ready, board members? Okay. Alright, look at all these nice faces here. I love it. Alright. So, oh, and it got all quiet. I guess I better start, right? Everybody's ready. So, if we could please call the meeting to order on this Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 at 6:01 PM with a roll call, please.
Denise Jones,
Yes.
Michael Miller,
Present.
Rachel Merrickwin,
Yes.
Judy Rayson,
Yes.
Leonard, yes, Claudia Parker,
Yes.
Colleen Hunsack,
Yes.
all present.
Excellent. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If my board could look at the agenda, please. I do have one amendment to make. We have another topic for closed session. So my amendment would be to add our recessing to closed session to also include discussion of the sale or purchase of securities, investments, or investment contracts. So if I could have a first motion when we're ready to accept the agenda with that amendment, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Claudia, and a second. Thanks, Denise. And a roll call.
Oh, Lord. Too fast for me.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
That's okay, I'm just, Denise, you're second, right?
Yeah.
All right, Claudia Parker,
Yes.
Denise Jones,
Yes.
Michael Miller,
Yay.
Rachel Merrickwin,
Yes.
Judy Rayson,
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes, Colleen Hunsack,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thanks. Okay, staff reports.
Great, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
So welcome, our very first agenda item for the night is to celebrate our district holiday card design winner with student recognition. So we had received a number of applicants who submitted for their lovely artwork, and we appreciate all that participated. And we submitted our winner for tonight is, we would like to say congratulations to Sadie Boffman. Is she here with us tonight? Hi. Well, thank you so much. We just want to honor you for your artwork. You were absolutely the top winner who submitted your artwork, and we just want to say we appreciate everything that you've done to submit this to the district. And it's already been mailed out. I know Colleen
I
has
said I
that-
received mine already, so
Yes.
yeah, it's already come.
Yes, so we have yours framed to give you and provide you tonight. And it is also up here for display for everyone to see. So we would like you to come up, and if you would take a picture with us.
All about the pictures and the cupcakes, kiddo,
Yes.
so thank you. I was really good, I would have done it.
Congratulations, sweetie. Did you like it? Did you love art?
Christmas card.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Well, congratulations. Yes, everyone said extreme attention to detail.
No, you can't. Hold on, Mama's gotta get her.
Yes, Mom, come get a picture. And Mom, if you wanna be in the picture, do you want a picture?
Do you wanna be in?
I would love that.
Yes,
Well, here, we
of
can do
course.
this really quick.
Yes.
Thank you. This is a wonderful honor.
Of course.
You should be proud.
She's like, who's gonna take my picture?
Oh, you're nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank
Oh,
you,
one more,
everyone.
one more,
I didn't get one of those.
One more with Mom.
Mom, come back.
You guys are good sports.
Good to see you.
Claudia. Okay, thank you.
And good, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
We always love celebrating our students at our board meetings. And of course, we have another student celebration. So next up on our agenda is for boys volleyball and our team recognition. So I would like to invite Leah up to introduce the volleyball team.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Woodland and the board. We appreciate it. I'm extremely proud of the accomplishments that these young men have made here at the 6th and 7th grade boys volleyball level. We are super proud of them. And I could not have asked for a better group of boys to start my my first year coaching. Our season was truly full circle as we started and ended facing Prairie View. Although we lost our first game against them, we flashed forward to 10 more games, and all of a sudden we are 8-3, and we have secured a second place finish in the regular season. We move on to face Olms in the semifinal. Sorry, it was the semifinals, wasn't it? Yep, the semifinals. All right, and then we beat them, and our season came to a wrap when we finally ended playing Prairie View in the SWIC championship game. We came out victorious, ending the game in 2 sets, 25-11 and 25-23. So give it up for the boys on that. This group of boys is the first Evergreen Park boys volleyball team to make it into the SWIC championship game and go ahead and also win it. So congratulations to them on making history. We spoke a lot during the practices leading up to those games about making history this season, and I'm really proud of the boys and all their hard work that they did. And we cannot wait to see our team up on the banner in the gym at Central. So congratulations, boys. You are truly incredible and defied the odds. I want to take a moment to congratulate Eddie Tiskevich and Michael Bruno, our all-conference athletes. As well as Michael Bruno for securing that tournament MVP title. Congratulations, Michael. And finally, I wanted to thank the parents of all of these volleyball players for their ongoing support and commitment to the CMS Boys Volleyball Program. We could not have operated successfully without your help, whether it was driving to and from games and practices or cheering and encouraging the boys from the stands. So thank you very much for everything.
If you could assist us, we actually have awards for each one of the players.
Awesome.
And we would like to hand them out tonight. And of course, Leah, we also have an award for you because we know every team has a great coach behind them. So thank you so much for your participation and your support with this team.
Well, thank
So
you.
this first award is for you. It's a certificate of recognition.
Thank you.
And then if you could support with me. So Michael Bruno, if you want to come up, and we're going to do a group picture at the end. Yes.
Sure.
You too.
Yes, you can stand up. We have Edward.
Don't think he's here.
Okay, perfect. Isaac Smith. Isaac.
Not here.
Okay. Rashawn.
Also not here.
Okay. Kaden. Kaden, I got a winner. Kaden is present. Yeah, if you're here, you get cupcakes. I mean,
Use that into your fellow
definitely a treat
teammates
that goes
tomorrow.
along with
so.
this. Thank you so much, Kaden. Matthew. Woo. Thank you so much, Matthew, for coming out tonight. Blake. No one else?
Yes. Okay.
Are we missing anyone?
Oh, Bobby's here. So sorry. Yeah,
Okay, Bobby. I'm gonna look for Bobby.
Oh, we got lots of them. All right.
Robert. Okay, Robert. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
And you said one more?
Josh.
In the back.
Joshua.
Yeah, there we go.
Joshua. Congratulations, sweetie. All right, we would love to take a picture with you quick.
One.
And we will make sure all the other awards get delivered to Central tomorrow.
So Clem's actually
Let's move down,
played
sorry,
volleyball
Bobby.
for CMS, but we were not the winning so.
Congratulations. You excited? You at least get a cupcake,
Just to
right?
organize. Just to organize.
She's a pro. We trust her completely. She's the best.
Yeah, put the boys in the
Oh,
front.
absolutely. She's gonna make us all look
There we
great.
go, then we can get
Nice. We'll just huddle in. There you go.
get Tucker in.
No, you stay right there. Michael, right here. Jim,
Yeah. We are putty in your hands, Claudia. You know that.
right.
Oh, I get to stand next
You,
So good.
Jim,
Yep.
over here.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And then
got it.
Judy over here.
Hi.
Do you see yourself in the window?
I can.
I never know where to look.
That's okay.
All right, here we go.
Oh, wait, another.
Oh, wow, we're still doing
Look
it.
at, they're
Okay.
still taking. I love it. To be proud of.
Congratulations, boys.
No, Congratulations. Great work, great work.
Nice job.
You're man.
Right. If you don't stick around,
Yes,
at least
please
grab
grab a
cupcakes.
cupcake.
Yes. Always,
Yes.
always, always. Totally get it.
Yeah, no worries.
Nope, we get it.
Yarborough?
Everybody's just ready to go.
Multi-purpose room? Is that what you need? Yep. Okay.
Oh, dinner.
That's confusing.
Cupcakes for dinner, okay.
I didn't even drink at my Christmas party. I can't.
All right, next on our agenda for tonight is a presentation from our Equity Action Planning Committee, better known as DELT. And so I'm gonna start with our objectives for the committee. The objectives of the committee were to review the district's historical efforts to mitigate inequities and advance equity in the district, It's to introduce to the Board of Education and the district an equity action plan and to share specific next steps. So first off, I would like to show my sign of appreciation to every single district equity leadership team representative that participated in a number of meetings and really helped to facilitate the work tied to our equity action plan. So for those of you that are in the audience tonight, if you could please stand so we could acknowledge your participation in this very important work. So I don't know if you noticed, but someone might have recommended that we all get t-shirts.
I saw it.
And I said, I think we can make that happen. So thank you so much for coming tonight, and we appreciate your participation. And you'll see a variety of our members are going to help in presenting our equity action plan to you this evening. So it's important in terms of our historical equity efforts to recognize that equity is around us in every single layer of the work that we've done, and also acknowledge the work that the district has previously committed to. This includes a diversity dinner, DePaul University professional learning that was conducted at Central Middle School last school year, inclusive programming with special education, which includes co-teaching models and intervention plans, ESL support, restorative practices, our work with our VPAC, which we are so appreciative of, and building-based efforts in regards to cultural celebrations, and much, much more. So this is not the first step in equity, but it is the initial step to determine what we looked at in terms of our committee to ensure we understood where we were to also progress us forward. So the Equity Action Plan is an accountability framework to identify, measure, and sustain actions to advance equity in the district. It is essentially a collaborative process that's developed with district stakeholders and relies on systemic commitments to best serve all students. There is clear alignment throughout all of the process that's directly tied to our strategic plan. And just so you're aware, we wanted to make sure we included what those action goals are for your review. You'll see them throughout the presentation as well, so that we can continue to remind every single stakeholder of the direct correlation between our equity action planning work aligned to our strategic planning process. There were 5 strands of systematic equity that we really focused on, and we had 5 strand leaders. The 5 strands were systems, teaching and learning, student voice, climate and culture, professional learning, family and community as an agency. As we go into each of our 5 strands, I will introduce our strand leaders. I led and facilitated the systems group. However, you hear me talk a lot, so I've asked for reinforcement from our systems group to help me present this portion. So whom participated in the systems group? Colleen Klimczak, board president. Myself, Claudio Martinez, assistant principal at Northeast and Northwest, and Shannon Mills, our 7th grade social studies teacher. So at this time, I am going to invite Shannon up to present some of our objectives from our systems strand.
Okay, so I was on the systems strand with those lovely folks, and we spent a ton of time researching to start as a group about different definitions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We looked at lots of different school districts across the state of Illinois. We looked at businesses, different organizations to see how they were defining and explaining diversity, equity, and inclusion for their organization. So that was kind of our first step, is that research component. Once we researched, we developed as a group our definitions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We got feedback from the DELT committee, and then one thing that I was able to do is I put our definitions into a survey, and we surveyed all of my 7th grade students, so nearly 100 7th graders at Central Middle School, on those definitions of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they are equally as important for us as adult stakeholders in the community as they are for our students to be able to understand and interact with. So we got really positive feedback from the 7th graders on those definitions and had some really awesome conversations with them about what those things look like in practice in the school building. And I think they'll be really great definitions for us to have those conversations with our students long term. So kind of the next step after that stakeholder voice was adopting the definitions of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then continuously referring back to them, not only for our parents, for our community members, for the staff, and for our students. So I think we're gonna walk you through those definitions. We have kind of an introduction to these definitions for DE&I. So our introduction to that kind of sets an expectation for us, and it says, as an Evergreen Park school community, our strength is in the unique perspective of all community members, staff, and students. We value the perspective of all individuals and share in a common understanding of belonging. As a district, we aim to uphold the goals of our strategic plan in alignment with our actions, policies, and procedures. It is our obligation and our commitment to uphold and embrace the following definitions. So diversity, we defined as diversity is the existence of many identities, backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives within a community. Fairly straightforward. Equity, in life, advantages and disadvantages exist. As a result, individuals do not begin their journey in the same place. Equity provides an environment of fairness where each individual has what they need to meet their full potential. And then inclusion. Inclusion refers to an environment where all individuals are and feel respected, have a sense of belonging, and participate and achieve their full potential. While diversity is essential, it is not sufficient. An institution can be both diverse and non-inclusive at the same time. A commitment to an environment of inclusive practices is critical to the success of all that belong. So those are our 3 definitions. Yeah, right? Those intertwining is good. Yeah. And then I think Claudio's gonna talk about the glossary of terms, and the really nice thing about that too is when we surveyed the 7th grade students, they provided us some terms to add to the glossary as well, so it's nice to kind of have that middle school perspective on like what terms they think are very important for everyone to be on the same page about too.
Great. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks for incorporating their voice. I love that. Isn't that great?
Good evening, everybody. One of our goals is to create a glossary of terms we can post directly on our school website where parents, staff, and students will be able to reference the glossary and its terms for clarity regarding our definitions for language related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The next slide has a sample of what this might look like, where we have culture defined, and then we have ESL as an abbreviation, a term explained. I think we'd also get more granular and explain specifically in our school district what this might sound and look like. For example, we don't use the term ESL, we refer to our students as EL students, or sometimes ML students, so English learners, or multilingual learners in our school district. And that'll be a helpful differentiation to make for parents that want to learn a little bit more on the terminology. Also to be noted is the glossary of terms will be an evolving document to be posted on the website. The date of our timeline for initial completion is this coming March. As previously mentioned by Shannon, we researched and we reviewed various diversity and equity related mission statements and policies from other schools and organizations to really help us get an idea of what our mission statement may sound like. We're in the process of creating our own policy that we hope to present to the board to be adopted for our students in our community.
Nice.
Thank you.
Our next strand is our teaching and learning strand, and Dr. Carlson led and facilitated this strand.
So our teaching and learning strand was led out by myself, and then I had also the assistance of Julie Kelly and Tracy Ferguson, Brooke Kandra, and Maura Raleigh. Like Jonah said, you all listen to us speak a lot, so Maura is gonna help explain kind of the work that we have been doing within this strand.
So our strand has 2 objectives. So the first one, we looked at creating and piloting a culturally responsive curriculum review process using the English Language Arts and Social Studies curriculum. So that's what we're working on this current school year. So our strand, what we did as a team is we researched a variety of tools out there to look at how culturally responsive our curriculum is right now. And so we selected the New York University tool to use. So teachers that are piloting programs, so ELA and elementary schools and the middle school are piloting ELA right now. So those teachers are gonna be using this tool to collect data. So the middle school is also using a student input tool, kind of like what Shannon did. So the students will have a way of looking at the pilot programs and saying how culturally responsive it was for them, obviously in student-friendly language.
Can you just briefly explain what the New York University tool, like,
Sure, so
that everybody can understand what
Yeah, so the tool looks at and it assesses how culturally responsive the curriculum is. So it's a pretty lengthy tool, and what they'll do is they'll look at how represented different communities are within that curriculum. So the teachers are gonna go through after, and so the middle school, for example, we're just wrapping up our second pilot right now. So we'll have 2 data points to look at and assess how responsive that curriculum is. Does that make sense?
So it's like a full read of a textbook to make sure it meets the checklist of the rubric?
Yeah, so it's not even like a checklist, it's like a scale, like a rating. So how many times do you see this group represented? How many times do you see this group represented? So it's a pretty, it looks at all groups and how inclusive it is. Am I explaining that? Okay.
Julie's used to do an assistant.
Yeah, it's also like ask
She's been
questions
using it as part of her pilot right now.
about like what kind of pictures you see, what kind of people you see in the pictures, how people are represented as well, to make sure that we aren't like reinforcing stereotypes within the curriculum, but instead looking at it through a lens of equity.
Authors too, so I feel like, yeah, it goes through kind of all the different parts of the curriculum.
Yeah, and then one other follow-up question, and then I'll let you move on. And then, how do the teachers feel when, like, you said that you're still going through this, but I would be very curious to find if the teachers agree with what the tool says.
It's a tally mark. So
Yeah.
For a lot of it, it's tallying, so it's not subjective at all, it's very objective.
It's the point of the New York University tool is to take out that subjective aspect. So, it's like how many times did you see this group represented? So it's like a number.
Right.
So it's pretty taking out that.
Was your question, do the teachers agree with the tool, or do they?
Well, I will just tell you, I'm not in middle school,
Yeah.
but I know that the curriculum does not reflect the student population. So I don't need the tool, but I understand why the tool is necessary for you to adopt a curriculum that does.
Yes. So, yeah, and we're using it with the pilot curriculums particularly, to look at what to select at the
Yes.
end of this
That.
year.
That is
So-
where I was going.
Yeah, so that's gonna be one of the data pieces to use with what curriculum
Sure.
we go with. So, that's for the ELA curriculums this year. At the end of the year, we're gonna take this pilot with that form, with that tool that we used, tweak it if need be based on what the teachers thought who went through the process. And then next year, so 2.2's objective is then to take all of our ELA curriculums, all of our social studies curriculums for the entire year, and then use that tool to evaluate everything.
Right.
And then the following year, pull resources for what gaps we need to fill. So it's this year's the pilot, next year is to look at the
The
tool.
implementation.
Yeah, to look at the tool for a full year, because this is we've only done 2 pilots so far. It's a very short period of time to look at like all the different groups and everything. So next year would be the full year, and then the year after would be pulling those resources to help fill the gaps. Because no curriculum is gonna be perfect, so.
And that's the point that I was about to add is, I don't want anybody to think, okay, well, this one gets us almost there, because I know that there are developmental curriculum, what am I trying to say? There are institutions
gaps in
out there that
yeah.
will create the curriculum based on
Correct.
your specific needs need, so you don't have to just go with something that will
Absolutely.
partially meet the need.
And that we can supplement if we find that there's a need to
Yeah.
supplement.
You can,
Yeah,
but they will create it.
yeah,
I've seen
absolutely.
it done.
Yeah.
I think I covered a lot of 2.2 though.
On the spot.
Oh wait, I didn't cover this part. So we have to train staff on how to use the tool.
Oh, yeah.
So like next year, so after like tweaking the tool if we need to, after this year with the feedback from teachers, we'll train staff on how to use the tool because everyone in ELA and social studies will be using it next year. And then part of that, we'll have quarterly PLC time to really dive deep into the tool and look at the curriculum. And then at the end of the year, we'll synthesize that data collected and then use it to look at the areas of underrepresentation, so.
When you talk to your students about this, do you feel a different energy about the fact that we're even looking at it so closely?
Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I think they enjoy being a part of that conversation and they have great ideas and
I did not administer the tool,
They
so
wanna
that's why I'm
feel
asking.
included.
Yeah.
They want, we're trying to get their voice as well. Part of the tool is asking them as well, like, do you see your body represented or your cultures or your traditions represented in this type of material? So the goal is to make everybody feel included and make sure that they're all being diverse and learning about everybody. And so the tool is also including that when we're utilizing it with the curriculums that we're piloting.
I love it.
Yeah,
Great
the middle school's been answering questions after each pilot, so
Yeah,
that's also part of the data, so.
very good job.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Maura. Thanks, Maura.
We can clap. That's
We
good.
Okay, our next strand is directly tied to student voice, climate, and culture, and that was led and facilitated by Miss Rebecca Terrell. And I also believe she has a partner joining her.
That was a good segue, because I feel like we talked a lot about student voice even in the last. So I'm the strand leader for Student Voice. Emily Arethis, Carrie Cato Dickman, and Katie Rowe are part of my strand, two of which are here. Emily is going to present on our two objectives, so.
She forgot her t-shirt.
I'll sit down. I won't have to be up here, I promise. So we are, I think, a little biased because I say we're the most important when we say student culture, student voice. And they did a really good job of covering it already, but so our first objective that we chose was something that would be a little bit, I don't say simpler to implement right away within this next school year coming up. And that is to promote a culture of inclusion and belonging through school displays, morning announcements, anything that has to do daily with the students. We were survey happy and then, everyone else took away from us, so we were fine with it. But, so we wanted to see, basically, we were gonna talk to the students and see, did they see themselves represented? In the hallways, in pictures, in books, just in the library, things like that.
Yeah.
Cultures, holidays, celebrations, like Christmas is coming up, but not everyone celebrates Christmas. So we wanted to talk to them about that. In order to do that, we want to create a committee of students that will meet monthly. Now, right now, to do that, we're kind of doing what's called like a coffee chat or coffee talk. So kind of just within the school day, just because not everyone's able to stay after school to have those, meetings after school. So we want to make sure everyone's able to attend them. Everyone's able to be part of it if they choose to be. So once we create that student focus group, we're actually going to have them walk through each of their home buildings with one of the members of the strand. And it'll be a very simple survey as far as like, what do you see? What don't you see? Do you see everyone included? Do you see different cultures? Things like that. And then after those surveys, we'll come back together with that group and then we'll go ahead and kind of just start brainstorming as like, what do we want to start seeing within our hallways? There's a lot of bulletin boards opportunities, displays, announcements, and we do some of that stuff already, but we want to make sure everyone's included and everyone's able to participate and the students will have some sort of like ownership to be able to say, hey, I did this month, or hey, I did, like, we came up with those quotes, or we did things like that. So that's our first part, is actually getting those committees together and have them be part of it. And then the second objective is to actually have that equity committee and actually have them meet monthly in each building. Again, that's something that we want to do next year, roll it out. we'll talk with homeroom teachers, things like that, just to kind of see who is willing to be part of it, who is a good fit for it. First, we'll see who wants to be like volunteer for it, but then we'll see like students who maybe don't usually volunteer, students who usually don't get the opportunities because they might not have the best grades, things like that. We want to make sure we have a very diverse group and very like group that's that's everyone's included. We'll create our norms, our visions for our monthly meetings, and then we'll have our calendar of events where we will, each month we'll celebrate something different, where it's different disabilities, cultures, ethnicities, things like that, so sorry.
Great.
Thank you so much. Well done.
And our next strand is professional learning, led and facilitated by Dr. Bannock.
We also had a great team working with this group. So we had Jenny Coleman, Alexandra De La Rosa, Danielle Richmond, and I was part of it as well too. And so we came up with 2 objectives as well. One of the things that came through with the strategic planning was people didn't want this to be like a one and done type of process, as they wanted this to be an ongoing process. And so one of the ways that we were going to achieve that is through professional learning with our staff. We looked at this year, the district created a more of like a foundational training for the staff, where it's a lot of like, here's what it is and here's kind of where we should be going. And then the hope is we're going to survey them at the end of this year to see where staff are at, and then based on that, develop a plan of how to move forward in terms of additional opportunities we can provide in coming up years. So then Jenny Coleman's gonna talk about, so it's great that we did it this year and what's gonna happen ongoing.
Thank you, Dr. Bannock.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jenny.
So basically, we wanted to incorporate setting up orientation for all employees after they are approved by the board. The Professional Development Committee found resources that will help in facilitating diversity, equity, and inclusion within our trainings. This is important because we have a common understanding, and so that we have a common understanding and use similar language. So some of those resources might have included some Infinitec trainings, some videos, things of that nature. Something that's short, that wouldn't take too much time away from the day, and help push us forward in trying to promote the equity and inclusion. That was it.
That's great.
Good job.
Thank you. It was my first time presenting. I'm nervous.
Great. And our our final strand is Haley is ready. Haley is
So ready, look at that.
Best strand go last. So I had the privilege of working with Dana Leonard, who was sick tonight, wasn't able to be here, but also Meg Lara, Nelda Ramirez, Adriana Perez, and Angela Casper. So super thankful to have parents that have sacrificed a great deal of time to support us more. They really have been the leaders of this committee, of our portion of it. So we're super thankful for our parents. We had 2 major objectives. The first one is to create an equity community advisory team. And so we really, when we think about this work, we really want to partner with parents and the community. And so in doing that, we'd like to create a community advisory team. So our team on this committee is going to have like a listening session and invite the community and parents. And that's going to be on Wednesday, January 18th at Northeast after school. We will provide childcare, so more information on that will be coming. But it is really a chance, we have some guiding questions that we're gonna be asking and just kind of listening to the community and to parents. And then we're hoping to kind of get some people that are passionate about this work to join us on that team to ultimately bring back to this team at the district. So that's our first major objective. And then our second objective is to have, we'd ultimately like to have quarterly parent educational meetings around this work. And so we'd like to have a parent meeting at each school throughout the year. So that would be 5 schools. But we'll figure that out. But we'd like to rotate the meetings and also just make it as easy as possible for parents to attend. So again, providing childcare for parents. But yeah, so that's really our goals
for that committee. So again, I'm super thankful to our parents that have really helped us kind of move in this direction.
Childcare and dinner will
Food, I know. That's how many resources we have here, but yes.
She's on a budget.
So that first meeting is the day of our next board meeting, is the afternoon of that,
Yes,
that's
you're all
January
welcome.
18th. So
Before the
just
board meeting.
schedule, I know, so just schedule from 3 until whenever we're done, so, thank you, Haley.
Nice.
So as you can see, each of the 5 strands has very specific action associated with their work. And so each strand leader is now left to really facilitate the remaining section of work. We will meet together as a larger committee again this spring to really determine and solidify their specific summer work that needs to be accomplished, along with making long-term projections aligned to the action that you were seeing and presented tonight. So I just want to again say thank you to every single member. And here is our quote that's on the back of our t-shirt. So diversity is having a seat at a table, equity is an action, inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is the outcome for all. So that is our goal and all of our action that we're taking, and we look for a long-term future in supporting this work as a district. So
Great job, everyone.
thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much to everyone who participated. There's cupcakes.
We will feed you if you come.
Exactly, right? Yes.
Board meeting and come to.
So our next is an additional recognition of a teacher earning tenure. So in certain situations, there are sometimes mistakes that happen. She's got her own cheering group. And Maura is unique, and I want to explain this. She's unique because she's a teacher who's in her 3rd year of teaching. However, typically you receive tenure after your 4th year, but in Illinois law, if you receive 3 excellents in a row, you can receive tenure early. So we wanted to honor her tonight and recognize her for earning tenure for receiving 3 excellent evaluations, and we have her award for tonight. Congratulations, you want to take a picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
One by myself.
Pictures and cupcakes.
She really wasn't asking, she was just telling you.
Too bad my mom's not here.
I know.
That is so cute.
And I did ask if you changed your name.
Oh, I didn't. No.
She just got married.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Great job, Mark.
I know, right?
Okay.
It's new. Lots to celebrate.
Right. So poor Adam, I think I made him sit through everything. I'm so sorry, Adam.
Not yet an hour.
Yeah. Okay, so next on our agenda is a review from Leggett Architects. I'm just gonna give the board just a brief reminder and the public of where we were. So if you recall, the Board of Ed approved in August 2021 a $6 million working cash bond to address the aero payment and facilities upgrades. The Board of Ed also approved the transfer of funds to operation and maintenance to complete these facilities upgrades. Leggett then conducted a thorough and extensive needs assessment of all 5 buildings. A facilities committee met last school year a number of times. In December of 2021, this chart that you see up here was displayed at our regularly scheduled board meeting. And then summer project work was completed. You'll notice on this chart where the green check marks are, I like a good visual, guys. The red indicated the attention that we needed to display to our facilities that were like high priority. So we started with those high priority items as recommended by both our architect and our facilities, Jim Hennessy, and then building level leadership. We completed flooring at both southeast and northeast, and it was also recommended to combine that with paint, as that's typical practice that when you redo flooring, you're also gonna paint at the same time. We also addressed the toilet rooms at Central Middle School, and next on our agenda is to review HVAC specifically at Northeast. So Adam is gonna talk about that tonight. I just wanted to refresh everyone's memory.
Hi, I'm Adam Quigley with Lex Architects. So as Dr. Woodland said, we've been working on a project to upgrade the mechanical systems at Northeast School. Basically what that'll do is add a central air conditioning and eliminate all of the existing window units. So we've been working with Dr. Woodland, Jim Hennessy, Eric Rossi, and our engineering partners to develop this project over the last couple months. So I want to kind of introduce the project to you, give you, kind of describe the process and give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, okay? We do have a relatively unique process that we're approaching this project with in terms of procurement. So there have been, due to just disruptions in the industry generally, a lot of long lead times for mechanical equipment in general. So we've been, what we suggested, how we suggested to approach this project was to have the district purchase those long lead item equipment ahead of time. So we've been really focused on specifying what that equipment is and then bidding the balance of the labor and installation work over the next, February, March. Let's see here. So we're gonna expedite the equipment purchase through like a state co-op, right? So we'll be able to buy it directly instead of bidding it. We're pretty early in the actual design of the installation of the project right now, but we felt that it was important that if we're asking you to purchase equipment right now, that you have an understanding of what the potential costs of the entire project are, right? So we provided a preliminary cost estimate for the entirety of the project. And because we don't have all the information right now, we're probably being a little bit, maybe aggressive, or we don't want there to be any surprises in the spring. So we may be a little bit conservative in our pricing. We've also included some design contingency and construction contingency as well. But we expect that as we develop the project over the next couple of months, we'll have a better idea of what those actual costs will be, and we can report that back to you as well. So projected here on the screen is our estimate. The items highlighted in yellow are those initial equipment pre-purchases that we'd like to make kind of as soon as possible, and we also have looked at a number of alternates. The overall project estimate that we had was $3.37 million to complete the project, and that includes replacement of the classroom unit ventilators. It's like how we provide cooling and heating to the school. There's also a rooftop chiller. This is a little bit getting in the weeds, but there's also other rooftop equipment that allows us to provide air conditioning to the building. We did have a couple of alternates that we also offered. Some of them weren't accepted because we felt, and I can go through those individually, okay? So alternate number 1, there is a unique situation in Northeast where there's an addition to the school, and if you can go to the next, maybe the next slide even. So there's what we refer to as the original building, and then there's an addition where there's a number of classrooms and the existing library, right? So that area in yellow currently does have air conditioning in those unit ventilators, but it's extremely old. And I think Jim will tell you that the cost of maintaining those from now and moving into the future will only continue to be more expensive. So completing that work as part of this project, the committee kind of decided that that was critical. So if we can go back to the other the original slide. So that was alternate number 1. Alternate number 2 was the replacement of the existing main office cooling unit that's on the roof right now. So right now, the main office and rooms around it also has air conditioning. And there's a small rooftop unit that serves that area of the building as well. And that will need to be replaced, sometime in the future, but it's currently operational. So we decided, okay, let's not do that work right now. It's a separate system, and it can be replaced at some time in the future. Alternate number 3 we're at right now. So in addition to the classroom areas, we had also planned to provide new cooling to the gym. That's a totally separate system, and it's possible to, again, do that work sometime in the future. So we decided that it was possible, if we needed to reduce costs, to eliminate that work and do it in the future as a separate project. I also offered a 4th alternate. In addition, so I'm sorry, can you go to this slide right here? So all of the, this is a picture kind of in the middle that's not highlighted under the bulletin board. We're gonna be replacing that unit, which is currently heat only, with a new unit that'll be cooling and heat, okay? But all of these units also have these storage on either side of it that's kind of integral to the unit and provided by the manufacturer. And we were gonna replace all of that shelving, just so everything matches and it looks nice as part of this project as well. But it is possible to reuse that shelving and save some additional costs. Now, we'd have to do a little bit of research, and it might not match exactly. And there'll be, labor to remove and reinstall it. But if we go back to the spreadsheet, there's $160,000 value to that. So additionally,
$160,000 value to keeping what's there, or
to keeping what's there,
to invest,
So you would save
You would save $160,000.
Right.
As long as none of them got broke under the deinstallation and reinstallation.
Yeah, so it's not as as simple as it sounds necessarily.
That's right, yeah.
But, so there could be some damage.
Right,
There could be the units that we're getting right now are a little bit larger than the units that they have currently. So we might have to lose some of that storage or modify it or something like that. But that if we choose to go down that path, we can look at it. And that's part of the reason why, for the other line items, or the other column which says installation and ancillary material, there's no labor associated with that, only because I think we're gonna eat up on, it's gonna be a wash labor-wise in terms of
as you're doing the
figuring
one,
it
it's
out.
all going in with the rest of the.
Right. One other thing to note, in terms of an additional expenses, is that in order to turn on the new air conditioning, We are gonna need to provide new electrical service to the building, so,
Which was unanticipated.
yeah, it was unanticipated until, a month or so ago, when we realized that we had to do it, so, or did a little bit of investigation in that regard, but, just for full transparency too, we will need a new, what's called like a transformer, and that comes from ComEd, and that is, has an 80-week lead time. So, we won't be able to actually, we'll be able to.
80 weeks?
80 weeks.
80.
Yeah. So we won't actually be able to turn on the air conditioning
For another year and a half.
until like the summer of 2024.
Don't get this moving, gotcha.
So,
I mean, and that's really the essential component of the work, is because equipment is necessary, obviously, to complete the facilities upgrades, and we don't see it getting better.
Right.
There's a lot that's impacted with the economy currently, that's not allowing us to move as quickly as we had originally hoped.
How much do transformers usually cost?
how much do they cost? I'm not sure exactly how much it costs. The entire electrical service upgrade is, $275,000, but it's not a lot.
Okay, that's
Transformers
just part
aren't
of the, that's part of the
Transformers aren't
electric.
that expensive. It's a lot of all the
It sounds very
stuff
big,
inside.
yes, when it says 80 weeks out, you're
It's
thinking,
not-
how much does?
Well, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of Commonwealth Edison.
Sure.
And so that's really what's holding it up. The transformers are really, it's not that big of a deal, you see it like on the pole, it's like a little circle thing.
Oh,
That's like on the pole. You can have one on the ground too. It's like in a green box sometimes. But
just sounds very.
If it's 80 weeks, it seems
Yeah, if
huge.
it's 80 weeks, it's like, wow, how much
How
is this thing costing?
complicated could it be? Yeah.
yeah, the cost isn't the issue. It's just getting ComEd's attention and getting the equipment, yeah, so.
So the quote that you have in front of you that Adam also projected would utilize the remaining portion of the bond, the original bond that was in the time allotted, just so you have that background. In the interest again of transparency, I would not recommend any additional costs in terms of utilizing our fund balance reserves, as we've made a commitment as a board to be really conscientious of that. And so we're really trying to work within the limits and confinements of our current bond and the remaining allocation that's remaining allocation.
And you had mentioned that the other schools, their gyms are not yet.
Correct,
Air
the gyms,
conditioned.
the elementary,
Just central.
just central gym,
Sure.
that's currently,
It would be nice, however.
yes,
Yeah, no, I agree.
yes.
Okay, well, if this pays for with the remaining fund balance and we're not going into,
This would be utilizing our bond. We would not be going into our fund balance reserves, as we would not recommend that.
right, but this doesn't include the other costs associated that we haven't bid for. So how do
The
we know
total
we can afford
cost.
it?
The total cost at the bottom, Claudia, it does include, yes.
How do we know that when we just stated that we can't bid for something because we're not certain yet?
No, so we're providing an estimate of what that bid may be,
Yeah.
okay? So we're saying,
It's hypothetical. So what if the estimate comes back higher than its estimate, but we don't have the money?
I would say that this is on the very conservative side, like Adam stated, and that we don't anticipate it to be higher than this. That's why he went high on his estimate, to ensure that we could afford the costs associated. And there's 10% contingencies along with design and construction.
Which is almost $500,000, really.
So it's possible this figure will even be lower.
Lower.
Yeah.
Right, we might not even, I mean,
This is a high.
Cushion
Yeah.
built in already
the
with those two
contingency is
10%.
high, but it's usually 10% of your project, right?
Right.
So if we don't use that, that's almost typically you do run into a little contingency usage, but
We did use both of our contingencies for southeast and northeast.
all of it or some of it?
Eric,
Do
do
you
you
remember?
remember?
All of it.
All
Yeah.
of it.
My other question too is like when you start meddling around inside walls and stuff, sometimes you find asbestos and mold and is there a possibility there could be a
So-
mitigation cost?
So, yeah, In terms of asbestos, we will have a report done. It's necessary to do ahead of any project. However, all of the schools have had previous reports done. And there's,
It's been clear.
in this particular school, there's no asbestos in the areas that we would be working in.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
No, it's a very good question. So to Claudia's question, it was, we have budgeted high and we have contingencies in place. So we have some without knowing, because we can't always predict the future.
Right.
But we do have some, at least cushion or flexibility in either direction that is really the only way we can respond to that uncertainty.
Bids are very unpredictable in this particular climate, but like I said, we try to cushion this enough that we feel more comfortable about having a good result when we bid the project in the spring.
I mean, we have
understand
to
the
use the
issues.
money, obviously, before a certain time period.
We have 3 years to use the bond service.
Right, and we're
So
already in
at
year
about
2.
We're in year 2,
Right.
a year and a half in.
What's the exact figure that remains on the bond?
It's the number at the bottom, the project budget.
Oh, okay.
That's not the exact.
So that's the bond that remains, or that's the budget for?
That's the project budget, that's the total remaining allocation in our bond. There might be some dollar and cents in there too, but that's the estimate.
It's a little rounded maybe.
Yeah.
But
So this is about $30,000 shy, and we would use operations and maintenance, that account, to do the remaining $30,000 budget. But we would not dip into our fund balance reserve, because we would not recommend that.
And this is also adjusting to the current, like what's left of the bond, because we've subtracted alternate 2 and alternate 3.
Yes.
Like we've adjusted it so it matches project budget to remainder of the fund.
Can we go back to the slide that shows what the priority projects are?
Yep.
I was wondering the same thing, because how was it determined that this would be the next project?
Sure.
What remains in the red after we're done?
So there's 2 things that remain in the red. The one of which I might have to ask Jim to speak to a little bit. So it's the southeast ceiling is sagging, and we, essentially we do our own maintenance to support in that upgrade. And Jim can speak to the specifics to that in terms of the ceiling at southeast.
That sounds pretty serious.
At Southeast with the attic space that they have above, there's insulation that lays on top of the ceiling tiles to keep the building. Occasionally, if the ceiling tile gets moved or manipulated, sometimes the grid will sag based on the weight of the insulation. We handle that in-house, taking care of that, so it's not something that needs to be replaced.
So it's not an additional amount.
It's an ongoing maintenance.
It's something that's a second.
That's something that we just take care of.
Okay.
And then the next project that would be in the red is southeast HVAC.
So another $3 million?
Eventually, yes.
Well, I mean, we took the bond out,
Claudia's
right.
like, can you cut this in half?
I mean, we took the bond out in anticipation that we have some old buildings and they need to be upgraded, and the ventilation is very important nowadays. I mean, let's just face it.
Yeah.
We talk about it in the classrooms all the time about how, these kids, with their allergies and the viruses that we continue to have in these classrooms. Ventilation should be our number 1 priority, and it has a cost. But I mean, we took out bond money to fix these things.
Yeah, I
You know.
agree. You did. You absolutely did.
When can we bond again? Reminder on that?
Oh, you don't wanna talk about that.
So
I just think it should be part of the conversation.
Oh, no, yes, you can. But remember, like, when we talked about when we took out that 6 million bond, like our leveraging, like our borrowing power, there's 2 types of bonds, like one that we can, like, we don't have to
go to the public for.
Yes.
And then there's others that are just board approved action. As a board, you can make a determination to bond really at any time. However, in terms of your financial projections, I would say the best time for you to bond would be after February of
one
2023.
Right.
And then additionally, we would want to really work hand in hand with Tammy from PMA again to really determine our debt to basically CPI revenue increase to determine how much we can bond for.
So kind of like as we pay off this one, kind of like we did with the
Yes.
last one. We bought this building and Central Junior High with the bond, we bonded out for that. And as that came to a close, we then, kind of overlapped, so our borrowing power and our credit worthiness stays where we need it to for, am I saying that right?
Eric's just like,
done.
yeah, yes.
Well done, yes.
So our borrowing
There-
power,
There's times in which your borrowing power is more potent in nature, that's the best way
Right.
for me to describe it, and you wanna wait to the time in which you can take out the most funding possible that's still going to put the taxpayer in not a difficult position.
Right, cause it's not like you're taking a loan from a bank. We're paying for it as community members. We are paying for it.
Yeah, but
But it's not-
just to clarify, when we took out a $6 million bond though, it impacted the taxpayer $12. It was not significant in nature. And so we were very, very adamant to say $12 a month on the taxpayer is not significant in nature to then put into place $6 million worth of facilities upgrades and pay a $1.5 million fee that we were required to pay to Arrow.
Right.
So you do that thoroughly and with a lot of research and with somebody who knows and can understand how to do that to support the taxpayer and support a student in a school environment that's gonna provide them an environment to be successful in their learning. One thing that I've heard consistently is that we need to really address our HVAC systems as a whole, and unfortunately, this is what the cost is
we've waited a
associated
long
with
time
that
to
project.
adjust, yeah.
And I agree with Michael, I do think we need to think long-term, because as I sit here and say this, I'm also going to say, we do not have the funding to upgrade HVAC at Southeast, and I will be completely transparent with the board on that. We are at that place in that space to really understand that we need to think long-term, and think long-term also in regards to space, which Adam will be presenting to us in January as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
With this conservative number, if we were to get a lower bid, lower bid, will we be able to add one of the alternates?
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, you potentially could. This real quick.
You're really
So-
hopeful, huh?
I said if.
Denise wants it all, she's like, sign me up.
Yeah, so, the main office cooling unit replacement is very simple to do. And you could do it anytime really, so, whether school's in session or not. So we don't really have to worry about the lead time on that, which is substantial unfortunately, but on that particular unit. But yeah, we could add alternate 2, and to be honest, alternate 3 would be challenging to add. However, we could structure the documents in a way that there is an alternate for that work with for the installation bids that we'll be preparing. And so we could potentially roll that unit into the general construction contract. However, it may not be done until summer of 2024, for example, because we may not have the equipment necessary to open the school at that time, because that unit actually would definitely need to be in place because it also provides heat to the gym as well. So we'd have to have that done in August, so we'd have to look at it very carefully and see whether we can order it separately.
Why are we concerned about space when we're landlocked and our enrollment isn't up?
I would say, well, Adam is going to do a very thorough spacing review for you January 11th that looks at addressing space. However, we've been charged from the Regional Office of Education, Adam, if you'd like to comment.
Yeah, I can continue.
Really?
You know, when we went out for permits, so we get building permits through the Regional Office of Education. And we, on a yearly basis, get permits for the mobile classrooms that are at all of the directional schools. And they are unhappy.
Like
that you
really
continue
unhappy.
to utilize,
Well, because we've been promising to get rid of those for
Yeah.
years now, and we just never, yes, yeah.
right, and they
They're
are
23 years
currently-
old currently.
They are currently being utilized at all of the directional elementary schools. So that's a big impetus, I guess, to look at space and look at ways in which we can eliminate those mobile work. Because what we really need to do is demonstrate to the ROE that we have, that at a minimum, Evergreen Park has a plan in place to eliminate those at some point in the future.
We've been trying.
So,
Yeah, we've been trying.
right.
I mean, at one point, we had them down where they were just used for storage, but
I mean, you're at capacity, and I think the principals in the room, I'm looking at Scott, he's got 2 gen ed classrooms at Southwest.
Right.
I mean, Carrie, we had to add a kindergarten section at Northeast this year. She has a kindergarten classroom at Northeast. I mean,
Okay, so the spacing is not due to increased enrollment, it's just to eliminate the mobiles.
Right, and you know, the other thing is that you also have to think about, you know, are you providing the best 21st century education, right? And do you have the space available to do that? And, you know, I think there's probably some programs and enhancements that would help you reach your kind of
Well, yeah,
like
I mean, we don't even-
goals in terms of.
yeah, we don't even use I mean, they don't get music rooms anymore. They don't have, you know.
They're on
they-
carts.
They're on art and music on a cart is not the best way for 21st century learners, you're right. Like, they should have a space where these music teachers and our art teachers, I mean, that's where they flourish, is when they walk into those rooms and they get to, you know, delve into those specials. And so we are landlocked, but although I agree with you, even though our student attendance has remained relatively stable,
It is.
our need for space is now challenged because our students need more space to and we need to get rid of those mobiles. There's just.
Okay, so I'm gonna redirect to HVAC while Adam is here, because that's really first. You're not taking any action on this tonight. This was really an opportunity for you to answer any questions that you might still have for Adam. If not, I'm going to thank him for his service tonight.
I feel like we just saw you last
Good to
month,
see you all.
Adam.
Happy
Hopefully we'll see a lot.
Yes, happy holidays.
Yes,
Yeah, happy New Year, everybody.
Have a nice one, Adam.
Great. All right, next on to curriculum and instruction, we have an e-learning plan update from Dr. Carlson.
Hello again. So the first thing under me tonight is e-learning days. If you remember last year in December, we approved our district e-learning plan, which is really useful, and we did actually use it a couple of times last year due to inclement weather or cold weather or circumstances beyond our control. We can call into effect an e-learning plan. So a little bit of a review of what that looks like. It is we do our best effort to inform staff and students and families of these the day before when at all possible. If that's not possible, we do have it in our plan that we'll do that by 5:30 a.m. and we will put the call out, put it to all social media and everything make everyone aware of the school closure and that we are enacting an e-learning day. By 9 a.m., teachers will then have lessons posted, be it in Google Classroom or Seesaw, whatever it is that they are using. And then students would log in, fill out the attendance form that they are participating in the e-learning on that day. And then they would go about their learning. So that could look like potentially a teacher could do a Zoom lesson, or it could be activities and videos posted into their learning platforms, and then students would participate in virtual learning throughout the day. The nice thing about this is it does not then require us to alter our calendar. We are able to keep the same end of school at the end of the year. And the feedback was really positive last year from those that participated in it and from the teachers in the buildings. So that's exciting. So that's e-learning. As winter approaches us, and staff has been informed of it, reminded of it, and been given a little bit of time to update, brush off their plans, so.
And we've also done community updates in our newsletter, so that our community is also aware.
Reminded.
So
Absolutely.
do they still take their devices home every day, just in case?
Yes. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'm super excited about, our instructional coaches have been doing just an amazing job. And so we brought them here tonight to be able to kind of share with you some of the things that they have been doing, providing services within our building. So this is a list of the instructional coaches that we have. At Northeast, we have Carrie Nee and Mary Zofke. Northwest, Judy Fetchko and Brittany Vienna. Southeast has Lisa Payne. Southwest, Nancy Neal and Amanda Farrell. And CMS has Maura Raleigh doing ELA and social studies, and then Matt Werman doing math and science. If you remember, last year was our first year that we started our instructional coaching. We started with some professional development from Keith Young. He came in and did new coach training with our staff. He was here monthly, met with them. We did PD days. He walked through modeled coaching, what the coaching structures look like, and really was able to give immediate feedback to our coaches in the moment, and that was wonderful. This year he is working with our 2 new coaches that we have on staff, and he's doing 2 meetings with all of the coaches just to kind of, brush up on things, answer questions that they have. So, but we are kind of pulling back some of those supports as they are in practice this year. We also have done a training with Larry Ainsworth, who is really an expert in learning targets, success criteria, and assessments. This is been a virtual training that was put on by one of the ROEs here in the state, and our principals and our coaches have taken part in this, and this is really going to help us lay the foundation of the work that we'll be doing for common assessments, and our coaches and our principals will help lead out that work, so they've also taken part in that training this year.
Can I just pause you for a second?
Yes.
So like previously, we used to have, and we had really good, amazing coaches that used to be here at the district office level, but they weren't always well received within the school buildings because it was like a us and them scenario. So I love that we have now got people who are, boots on the ground, we're in the classrooms and they're helping their peers. How are the coaches received? And I already tell a little bit because I see one that's in the room. And she's got a whole little cheering section over there. So clearly she's got some buy-in. But what are the sentiments from the staff?
I think the fact that they are in the buildings, also our coaches are doing interventions as well. So they are really in the classrooms also working with kids. So we talk about job embedded professional development. They are with the teachers in those buildings, helping them one-on-one whenever they can. We're really working this year on intentional planning. So our coaches are sitting in with teachers as they are in their team planning sessions and providing feedback and suggestions. They are in rooms modeling instructions. So the fact that they're there every day, I think, and working with kids as well, I think really has helped to improve how they are received. They are one of us in the building, and I think that makes a big difference.
So they're not getting pushback.
I mean, teaching is very personal. So anytime that you are, observing lessons or giving feedback, I mean, that can be. But I mean, we've really worked hard to provide them with the training to have conversations and how you don't necessarily tell someone how to do something, but help them to come to those realizations on their own. We want that growth to come from within and be guided by the coaches, and I think that that's really what they're really good at.
I love it.
So,
Thank you.
The model that we have too is that there's like a wall between us and the administrators. So like for sure we work with administrators on like district and school goals, but we don't talk about like feedback we give to the teachers to administrators.
Sure.
So there's like that wall between, so versus before and how the coaches were, they were very much viewed as an administrator, we're not. So that's the model we adopted.
I agree. Yes. So Brittany and Maura are gonna talk a little bit more about what their roles have been in the buildings, so. Brittany Viana, she's new to us this year, and Maura, you know, we've seen 3 times today.
This is my first year within the district and my first year as a coach, and I have to say, kind of going off your statement, I feel very welcomed and very open arms with our staff at Northwest. So I've never felt at all like, oh, I'm stepping on somebody's toes. I think too with the staff being at Northwest specifically newer, earlier in their years of their career, they're needing that support. And I think we are doing a good job giving that. So we're gonna kind of talk about the role of a coach, and there's 9 coaches within the district. We provide job-embedded professional development. We inspire teachers to try new things, different instructional practices. We model and demonstrate these best practices. For example, I push into a 5th grade math classroom where I'm co-teaching right now, and I'm doing the same for a 1st grade math teacher. So I'm in there with her in the trenches, going along. And so I think that helps build that respect and that rapport with the staff as well. Providing suggestions and feedback along with them during those lessons that are taking place. We offer non-evaluative feedback, so we're looking at that Danielson rubric and how can we best support those teachers to become as effective as they possibly can. And we serve as site-based teacher leaders, serving both our teachers and our students. So we support teachers a lot more. We gather resources. So for example, right now we have Eureka Squared Math fully implemented, and it's brand new for everyone. So we are hard at work trying to help support our teachers. We also help with instructional support with implementing student choice, higher level questioning, like depth of knowledge, cooperative learning, how are students going to be engaged with each other throughout the learning, and our differentiation to make sure that we're meeting all student needs. And then we have data conversations where we collaboratively analyze various data to make instructional decisions and create groups, so especially like flexible grouping, like how can we do assessments that are quick right then and there that will show what the students know, and how can we group them based, you know, what their needs are at that moment, which also hits on that differentiation piece.
So this is from a study on how the impact actually works with coaching. And so this study looked at 2 different groups of or the same group of teachers, and they did professional development 2 different ways. So the first way they did it in isolation. So what that is, it's kind of like a sit and get professional development. So kind of like what you would think a traditional PD is. Someone's talking to you, you listen, and then you're supposed to leave the like big conference and implement it in your classroom. And so this study showed that only 10% were able to like successfully take the skill from that and implement it in their classroom. And then 95% were able to take a skill and implement it if they were provided coaching. So the coach was able to like work with them, practice with them, troubleshoot, and do all sort of different things that that specific teacher needed to help implement it. So this is 3 more ways that coaches support teachers. So classroom management, problem solving with teachers, meeting with them on their prep periods, co-planning, team teaching and modeling. So really that co-planning during department time. So a lot of times I'm with ELA and social studies teachers, team teaching, modeling, any strategies that teachers want to try, you can go in and do a quick model. And then unpacking the standards, which will kind of lend to that high quality tier 1 framework that we are working on in the district and all of our strategic plan goals for curriculum. So looking at the alignment and the rigor of standards and being on grade level.
So at Northwest, we had a December staff professional development on accountable talk, which is like student discourse. So how can students become more engaged with their own learning, with their peers? And it's not just the teacher talking in the front, but instead it's, okay, feeding off of each other. And our staff professional development was based on an area of growth that we saw after analyzing data with our building leadership team. Through the HQT1, the High Quality Tier 1 survey that all staff took. So based on their self-assessment and that survey, we saw that there was a need for student discourse, and it also aligned with the walkthroughs that took place in October. Was that October? Yep. So we're like, all right, let's do this. So we touched upon what could this look like in your classroom. I've gone in, and the other instructional coach who is in here tonight, she's gone in to help implement this as well in the classroom so that more student engagement is taking place. And we have some digital coaching newsletters this year. So we have the Coach's Corner with Brittany and Judy. And the newsletters provide additional professional development where we provide articles, videos, over skills that are taking place right then and there that would be most beneficial for that month. We highlight instructional practices that are going great in classrooms already. So we talk about teachers that are doing great things with their students. And we've been putting a student engagement piece in every month of like, try this, because especially that social awareness with kids of like how to interact with each other is very important. So that student discourse, student engagement is something that we are focusing on.
And great minds think alike. So I started one called Educational Mormons. So,
So clever.
And we really try and just highlight, it's just a different way to get like a message out to teachers other than meetings and things like that. It's a quick reference tool for them. So just a different strategy to get some ideas across to them. We really try and make sure that everything's aligned to the strategic plan, the High Quality Tier 1, and just directly connected to anything that our administrators are trying to do and the district's trying to do. It's kind of like we're like the messenger to the staff. So just a different way to kind of get the message out. And then to end, this is something that I did last year, and this year I kind of did like a different spin on it. So just like with our students, we really have to try different ways to like get the message across and out. Like we've shared all the different ways that we work with teachers. So this is just one way that I started last year, and this year I'm doing again. And so it's 12 days of Coachmas. So just trying to be as creative as possible and to build relationships. So it's a way to like thank teachers for working with me, but then also this year I'm sharing, just like Brittany had talked about, like the talk moves and talking strategies from the feedback we got from the learning walks. So I shared a bunch of those out, and then a teacher who tried one will be entered in like an extra raffle on the last day. So just a different creative way to kind of help support and grow our teachers. So yeah.
Okay, so the energy, the enthusiasm,
Right? I'm loving it.
Like, see you in 2 years
So
for your
fun.
tenure.
Yeah.
But I'm very mindful of wellness, and so you guys are doing your job plus all this extra. What's happening for your own cup being filled?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's watching the growth of the teachers. Like coming in, especially as a first-time instructional coach, I've been a teacher for 10 years, and now I'm kind of on the opposite side, so I understand, like, gosh, it's like a hard time being a teacher right now, where you don't want to put demands on your staff that aren't realistic, but then watching a year 2 teacher just like blossom within a couple weeks, and it's like, wow, like, I can do this. So that was, I mean, that's honestly, that's, instead of that student satisfaction that I would get with my second graders, it's like looking at her and be like, you go, girl. Like,
I love that.
Yeah, keep that enthusiasm, but I don't want you guys to burn out, but just great job all the way across the board.
feel good. I feel good, so it's fun, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So when we talk about professional development, we've been very intentional with the fact that recognizing what the research says, high quality professional development is characterized by sustained, coherent, collaborative, and job embedded learning. And that is what we are trying to do every day. That's what our coaches are doing in the building every day. And that's really how we're gonna see change moving forward. So I appreciate all of them. They all do a wonderful job and work very hard. So thanks for letting them share out.
Yeah, great job. Look at that smile on your face.
Okay, cause can I tell a funny story? So I'm doing the architect slide today and Ashley's doing the instructional coach slide and putting all their stuff and I'm like, yours is way more fun than mine. I was an instructional coach for 1 year in my career and I will just tell you, it was one of my favorite jobs. And it's because you work directly alongside teachers and you get to work with them hand in hand. And I just love seeing our coaches and all the wonderful work that they do.
Yeah.
It's great. Yes. All right.
Okay. Get your cupcakes.
Is it money?
Get your cupcakes.
Yes, get your cupcakes. Money is next.
Money. Money, money, money.
Statement expenditures, last month, we saw pretty much the same pattern, salaries and benefits with some of the final payments towards our construction project from last summer. Outside of that, everything's consistent. Revenues, you'll notice that the revenues did not go up much since last month. We received only evidence-based funding money with some other grants. Taxes are supposed to start coming in towards the end of the month. I'm hoping we'll see it on our, on my board report next month, but I would guess that we have majority of our taxes by February or March, hopefully.
Everybody was saying the tax bills were like,
They were so late.
yeah, so like that's
Yeah, they were.
direct impact right there.
Yep.
Fund balances, because we have not received the revenues we normally have been receiving at this time of the year, they're down a little bit from last month, but I fully anticipate that going up once we receive our tax money back.
It's not from spending.
Right. So I'm here to talk to you guys today about the 2022 final levy presentation. Timetable, last month I presented the estimated aggregate tax levy. Today I will be presenting the 2022 tax levy for adoption, this including all appropriate resolutions. Note, since levy request does not exceed 5% higher than prior year maximum extension, the district is not required to hold a hearing. December 27th is the deadline to turn in all necessary documents with the county clerk. So I will be delivering all the documents this week to make sure we get it in.
Cause that's really soon.
Yeah, very quick.
Nothing like making you guys sweat it out right at the end there, right? Okay.
Breakdown of levy request, we have $300,000 levied in the IMRF fund, $1 million in the Social Security fund, $1 million in the transportation fund, $17,164,000 in the education fund, $2.4 million in the building fund, $220,000 in working cash fund, and then $1.7 million in special ed fund, for a total levy request of $23,784,000, which is a few $1,000s lower than the tentative one, and that's because just some of the final numbers that we received made it so we were a little over 5%, so we cut down a little bit to get to the 5% number. The 2022 maximum allowable increase in tax extension is 5%. Here's a 30-year history of tax caps in Illinois. You may notice that this is the highest in the past 30 years for a tax cap, but then at the same time, this is the lowest 10-year combination of tax caps. The average is 1.95%, and that the second
CPI went up,
CPI,
correct?
yeah. And then 2.49% second 10 years, and then 2.52 the first 10 years of tax caps. Our sources of revenue, our real estate taxes take up 65% of our revenues, while our evidence-based funding is 14%, federal grants at 13%, other local at 6%, and state grants at 2%.
Has our real estate percentage gone down? I thought it was higher before. Yeah.
The real estate taxes would go down a little bit just because of the abatement of taxes from the property tax relief grant.
Cause I feel like, yeah, we used to be higher in
More than
real estate.
65%, you mean?
Yeah, higher than 65%, has it always been
That
around?
more of our budget
So
came from there?
it went down because we abated the taxes, but at the same time, are receiving more evidence-based funding. So that
Gotcha.
right there, and then once the abatement's done with, then we'll see the
Yeah,
percentage
cause we
increase
were
again.
closer to like 90 or no?
In the past, that could be, but
Yeah, that's like a big cut, yeah, but the evidence-based funding for, yeah, okay.
yeah, because that goes up, so then. State of Illinois implemented a 50 million statewide property tax relief grant for the 2021 tax year. Reminder, Evergreen Park District 124 applied for this grant and received it. And as a condition of the grant, we abated taxes by $1,631,000, and we will abate the same $1,631,000 this levy year. The abatement will be funded through an increase in evidence-based funding. The grant provided tax relief to the community in excess of $175 per $200,000 market value homeowner in both the prior levy year and the next levy year.
I know that there was an instance where somebody missed the deadline, it wasn't you, so I'm not throwing you under the bus, but can we just make sure we stay on top of applying for that money?
Yeah, we when we did the resolution last year for it, we did it for both years, so I just have to fill in a form, so
Okay, great,
bring a
thank
form.
you.
Impact of the property tax relief grant on our financial conditions. You'll notice this year and next year, due to the timing of the abatement of taxes, we will be abating $1,631,000. And now, starting last year, we received an increase in evidence-based funding from here on out of $1,331,000.
Is it really in perpetuity?
So far,
I know, right?
right
We'll take it.
now,
Yeah.
Right.
for as long as they, yeah.
This was so helpful.
Thanks.
I don't know why, I'm like, oh, Eureka, yes, that.
I know, 'cause it's like too good to be true.
It does seem
I
too
mean,
good
it's
to be
lovely,
true.
but also
Michael,
like.
I'll probably ask
completely,
every single meeting.
Are you
Still in
sure?
perpetuity month.
Are you sure?
Until they like crush evidence-based funding and go, now we're gonna call it this,
Something else.
it's no longer gonna be called this. But hopefully.
And just a reminder, unaudited fund balances on June 30th, 2022. We have fund balances of $15,598,000. Any questions? Thanks, guys.
Right, Patricia is up next for our report on our job fair, which was so fun.
It was so fun, you guys.
I met a lot of great people that day.
Yeah, we had a great
It was right
time.
before conference, yeah.
We crossed our fingers. We really thought this could go one way or the other. We can get 2 people or we can get, 100. And we got something in between, so we were really happy. We had 39 people attend the substitute teacher
Good.
job fair. That was a pretty good number. And of that, we already have 9 substitute teachers added to our pool. Of the 9, I know that 6 for sure are already taking assignments and have, been in the mix. And then what's so cool about this, we had retirees come out and participate. And so we've since added 2 more retirees and we still have a few more in the pipeline. And the great thing about this is we've added other subs, like para subs. We've added a few other, we're in the middle of doing health aid subs. We have some stuff to do with that. But just specific, not just specific to the substitute teacher, we're doing some other sub positions too, which has been just super helpful to the pool of absences we have and the unexpected things that happen for our teachers and other people. So kudos to Jenna, who said, look, we're gonna do this and we're going to actually push it to the community. I didn't even know we could do that. And it was the best thing to do ever. And then to everyone who sat and did the interviews with me, like Ashley, Tracy, and Lisa, who did all the onboarding. Dan, of course, who helped us with our presentations. Eric, who did errands for me while I was in the and also to John, who does our setup, of course. And then to our principals, assistant principals, and a host of other people I don't know who just spread the word. So it was really a success and we're gonna keep it going. I've got a recruitment strategy that I hope to get to Jenna soon, and some of this will include more job fairs, so.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, it was a good number.
That's
It was definitely a
great.
good number.
Like, really?
Patricia, when you say retirees came out, do you mean former teachers of D124 that have retired? And they're like, I want more of this?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay, our retired teachers
Yep.
to do some subbing for us.
Dr. Woodland and I were at the Chamber of Commerce event
Yes.
last Friday, and one of our retired teachers who had at least a couple Klimzak sons along the way came up and was saying, and they had already met. I
Yeah, and I was
introduced them
like,
and they're like,
"You
oh, we already met at the job fair.
Yeah.
She's a gem, and it's great to know that she's coming back and can be called upon, so
That's
yeah, it was great. They already know the district,
They already know our
right?
kids.
Absolutely.
We trust them.
They're awesome, so, yeah, that's really great. Well done, 39, that's great. Okay. So, we are on to item number 6, where we will open the floor for public hearing for tax levy. Sonia, do we have any
Just have them all
comments
line up, Sonia.
on the tax levy, public hearing for the tax levy? Okay, and thank you. I think part of that really is because Eric is so good at explaining it last month and this month, and I really do appreciate that. Okay, if there are no public comments, I will close the floor for public hearing of the tax levy. And then item number 8 is public comments in general, okay. So thank you for that. We do always welcome public comments, and we're always happy to hear from our community. We will limit you to 3 minutes, whether it's good news or bad news, that's just how we have to roll. But again, always welcome, so thank you for that. All right. So, on to board reports with Judy. Please, thank you.
So the November meeting was pretty eventful. We had a lot of discussion about the sale of the property in Burbank, so the original Arrow building. And at that particular meeting, the attorney for Arrow was there, as well as a couple of superintendents who just kind of shared their perspective as well. So we were basically presented with the 2 options, which I think we've discussed before, but it was kind of like narrowed down to the benefits of these. So option 1 would have been to hold the appraisal price and go to a real estate broker and sell in the open market. We were pretty opposed to that. There were a lot of downsides to it. Like for instance, fees associated with having security for the building while it was on the market. The obligation to maintain the property while it's on the market. And just the general unknown of who may buy and feeling like an obligation to that community. It's a pretty residential community if you haven't seen that building. To just kind of preserve the, community atmosphere, because could be anything that goes there. So we really didn't like that option at all. There was also, the attorney brought up that there was like the potential for zoning litigation. If a business wanted to go there, or if they wanted it to be residential, then that would kind of delay the process. So there were lots of downsides to going to the open market, because at first when we looked at appraisals, my thought was, well, of course you'd try to sell this property for top dollar, but that was, those were some of the drawbacks. So ultimately, the governing board in November decided to vote for option 2 to negotiate with current co-op members. And the benefits to this are that it's a quicker process, no fees and maintenance, and the additional benefit of helping a co-op member district to get property and get things that they need and expand. So So we did go with that. So the governing board in November did vote to approve setting the minimum bid at $250,000. So that is, I know it's rather low, I see your faces, but
I thought it was
so-
supposed to be higher.
well, I think that
It's like giving it
from my
away.
understanding, the land value appraisal was $850,000. That was the appraisal, but the estimate to level the building
Cause the asbestos.
is
Yes.
is $600,000.
Oh,
That
okay.
makes sense.
So when you think about a co-op district, if they were to pay the appraised value and then have the additional cost of
Sure.
removing the
Asbestos
asbestos and
and-
everything,
Okay.
that was explained to us that would be an additional obligation for them and kind of a burden for them to deal with all of that. So we did approve setting the minimum bid at $250,000. And since that time, Revis High School submitted a bid for $250,000 and $220, so it was $220 over.
That's an IKEA
And,
commercial.
Right, that was approved by the executive board, but it will come to the governing board at our next meeting, which is January 23rd. So, that, I'm sure that will be something that we'll vote on. And, I think their intention is to, use it for a parking lot, I believe.
Yes, and it's directly for those of you who know the location, it is directly next to Revis. And so they were really adamant on purchasing the property, and there were no other cooperative districts that placed a bid
We
as well.
definitely have to look at the place that like Evergreen could use it, we don't.
It wouldn't benefit
Right,
us.
right.
Yeah.
The Burbank Elementary School District, I think, toured it a few times and, made some inquiries, but ultimately it was Revis who submitted the bid.
Yeah.
So,
I actually, where is there? I was not.
It's in Burbank.
It is.
it's really tucked away in a
It is.
residential
It
area.
is,
It
my
is.
GPS took me there and I'm like, it has taken me to, I don't even know where, but then poof, it just appeared.
It just appears.
But yeah, it's
It's
not
in
anywhere
Burbank.
that you would
Yes,
run
I-
across
Yeah.
it, yeah.
It's in
Yeah.
the neighborhood.
It's right behind Revis, really. So that's about it.
Okay, and so your next meeting is after our next meeting?
It is, so it's
Okay.
January
So February.
23rd.
Okay,
Mhm.
we'll wait till February to find out what's going on.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you. We had Denise and I and all of the DRT, but we were at the district review team meeting on November 28th.
Should have bought them dinner, shouldn't I have?
That was a long meeting, I'll tell you why. It was a good meeting, it needed to happen, so that was really good. So it was deceiving though, there were only 2 items on the agenda, but they were obviously some weighty items, and that's the whole point of that's the whole point of the committee, so again, it was a good conversation. So the 2 questions that were, again, this was on the 28th of November, so the first question that came up was about scheduling parent-teacher conferences with Power School. So parents did not have access to Power School, thus not allowing them to sign up for appointments appropriately. So like I said, that was right after parent-teacher conferences. Even by the time we got to the meeting on the 28th, there were already thoughts about some of the solutions that might be able to be implemented next time. So it turns out that Power School doesn't have an app. So if there's parents that rely completely on their phones for like an app for access to Power School, there isn't one. And so using it is using,
I don't know if that's right.
you
I
can
have it
use
on
the
my phone.
the website from your phone, but you can't access
So
the.
you can't access the parent-teacher conference sign up
You
from
could,
your
that's what it
phone,
was, so.
and or there was user error.
Yeah, I did mine on the laptop.
Nice, well, right, and so.
It was easy on the laptop if you had it.
Sitting quietly in the corner. So we're not gonna put poor Dan. Like 500 parents weren't signed up. So that was a really big number, and now that's down to 200. But more importantly, there were things like how can we better accommodate the parents? There was like a default where you could just hit a button and all teachers were chosen, even if they were specials, and even if your child doesn't have music this quarter. like it was kind of a hot mess. It was again, questions on how to accommodate parents better. So some of the solutions that were brought forth, and like I said, these were already in discussion before we even got there, was using a different platform next year, just even for scheduling. Sign Up Genius, was that one of the
It's an
thoughts?
option that we're
Was an
exploring,
option, so
yeah.
just knowing that that is someplace that Power School does not have the capacity, so finding other solutions by that time next year. And obviously setting defaults differently, so that those special teachers aren't added when unnecessarily. But more than anything, getting parents signed up for Power School and whatever else long before parent-teacher conference scheduling happened. So there was questions about how to get, have a setup at all of the back-to-school nights, or all of packet pickup, or
That's a
you know,
good idea.
anything that we can do to get kids or to get our parents, signed in, logged in, getting notifications, et cetera, as early as possible in the school year. So they're already on board and up and running before it even gets to parent-teacher conferences. So, does that sound, okay, so that's where that first question was. Obviously, it was after the fact, so it was really just how can we do better next time? And we have a little bit of time to do that, which is nice. So those were some of the solutions for that. And then the second issue was the weighty issue. And the issue was, throughout the school district, there's been an increase of violent students and students with behavioral needs. And that is a reflection in the country. I mean, we have teachers here with us too. That's every school district, but we need to worry about our school district and not just every school district. So really it comes down to how to best manage the classroom and the needs of all of the students, right? So the ones who might be having the behavioral issues and the students that are also in the classrooms with them. So it was a very important question, and we really were here for a very long time. And I do respect the work of Dirk, because we dove deep, we dug in, so there was lots of questions about that. There was, so things that we can do, not even differently, but drawing awareness to what's already in place. So, perhaps knowing that there's a crisis response manual. Like every student with behavioral issues or challenges has a plan in place. And so knowing that everybody in the building or everybody that's in contact with that student knows what the steps to take are. So things like that. Obviously training, compliance with fidelity, increased staff, knowing that there's a crisis response manual. There were other suggestions like increased social workers present, or a permanent sub maybe for the crisis response team, because, and this was very interesting, I didn't know this, that the students, when they are acting out, the best person to work with them is their classroom teacher. They're the ones with the rapport, and so having somebody perhaps on the team, this was an idea, to be able to sub into the classroom while that student is taken out with the teacher that they already know and are comfortable with and who can help them. So that was just, again, it was a deep conversation. It was a intense and in-depth conversation, but I really appreciate some of the strategies and things that were brought up and the ideas that came out of that too. So communication and collaboration.
Yes.
That's what it all comes down to. So our next meeting is not in December, because nobody wants to meet the last Monday in December. So we'll be meeting again in January.
But one of the other things that I saw on there that was heartbreaking for me is that some of the paras are being pulled and they're put in classrooms where they're not familiar with that class, where they wouldn't know how to respond to that particular student's needs. And the paras, as a result, are being hurt sometimes by the students. So how are we addressing that?
That was all of the
So I would say
part of
in
the
terms of individual student needs, we work through our student support services department to determine if there's a specific behavior plan in place for a student who's high needs.
work with that principal, that team, to ensure that that student has a successful plan in place, knowing that every single child that walks through our building has rights. And we are really obligated by law to ensure that we're providing them the adequate supports that they need to be successful. That includes social work support, direct peer support, making sure we're following a process for them to be successful. And so that was a part of my report that I provided, that both Denise and Colleen can comment on, is that, again, every single child who walks through our doors has rights that we're obligated to follow to ensure that they're being provided the opportunity. In the event a staff member is injured, they fill out an accident report, they have direct contact with the principal, direct contact with the nurse to ensure that we're supporting them appropriately. My most recent letter to staff is directly tied to, we don't want any staff member to be in that position. However, and I can speak to personal experiences, there are kids that are coming to us that have experienced an extreme level of trauma that we're trying to respond to and respond to appropriately in a way in which we're meeting their needs and also meeting the needs of staff.
I know we're gonna take excellent care of our students. So I don't wanna negate from what our hearts are compelled to do and what I know we are doing every day.
Yeah.
But if I'm a para and I'm working with a student and I don't know the student, I don't understand what their behaviors are, I don't know that I'm not supposed to touch them because they might have some type of sensory issue, and I do, and that causes them to have a reaction, right? It's not about the student. The student maybe isn't intentionally trying to harm, but I'm the para.
Yeah.
And I'm helping the student and I'm getting hurt. How are we supporting the staff that are being hurt?
And that was the whole point of the question, so that was
Yeah,
the conversation we
I
were
feel like
having.
I didn't get a real response, like what are we doing in immediate intervention for our staff to protect them from being harmed?
So we have a crisis response team in every single building. So in the event a child is demonstrating any sort of behavior, we have the authority, if a staff member is trained, to put a child in a hold. In the event, we're obligated to do so if they're demonstrating harm. And there are a number of staff members that are trained in each building in order to support in that moment in the event they need to and are required to.
So then are the response teams not implementing these things? Because
I think
this
sometimes
is not happening, and that's why it's showing up on the report.
No, I think that sometimes what occurs, especially with our primary students, is that they're quick. And so as much as like you can anticipate that something would occur, they're also 5 and 6 years old. So sometimes their response is so quick that it's not, even the child doesn't intentionally mean to harm anyone. It's happening so quickly that crisis team can't necessarily respond as quickly as the child who's 5 and 6 years old, who's experienced an extreme amount of trauma in their life. They're responding the only way they know in which to respond. And so every single time we address the situation on an isolated manner, and I think a lot of times, and I said this to Dirt and I'll say this to everyone, a lot of times in these situations, we're looking for a black and white answer. And unfortunately, in these situations with these students who have extreme needs, there is no black and white answer. We really have to look at the individual child and address the individual needs, which ensures that it's teachers, parents, educators sitting around a table and saying what's best for the needs of this child at this moment. And I can tell you, when we look at what we have done, I do believe this school year we've been very, very responsive towards the needs of our staff and our kids. I know that my principal team works directly with any staff member at any single moment in time in the event they're in a situation with a child who responds in a certain way and ensure that that staff member feels supported. I can tell you that I've individually met with teachers and any paraprofessional who, in the event we're noticing trends, to ensure that they're getting the support and resources that they need.
I know Becky Terrell is consistently working with teams of teachers and principals to ensure again that we're working with the children and with the staff member to ensure
So is
they're
it
being
just, is
supported.
this an isolated incident then, based on y'all's DIRT meeting, this was only like a one-time thing? Or is it one particular child that it was happening a couple of times? I'm trying to understand how it got to DIRT to the magnitude of which it is, if all of these things are actually occurring,
I would
based
say-
on what you're saying.
I would say that we're experiencing a level of students who are in crisis this year more so than we have in the past.
So it isn't just a one-off?
It's more, it was more than one incident.
Yeah.
And we spoke we had a very long conversation, about, like we're saying now, how to handle certain situations.
Mhm.
I think we spoke about the PBIS
We did, we
tool.
talked about PBIS and
And,
things like that, but a lot of times these escalated behaviors are outside of, outside of PBIS, it's
Yeah.
not
And
necessarily
it's
something
really
we can do
twofold.
to.
It's addressing tier 1 PBIS needs
Mhm.
and then also
Well, and that's preventative.
that's preventative,
Right.
and then also creating a very specific and detailed crisis response manual that should support, and here's our very systemic district response. So one of our next action items is to bring that crisis manual to DIRT at the end of January for them to review. And that will also come with staffing recommendations. Because what we're
More training as it relates to how to handle some of these incidents?
we've entirely shifted January Institute Day as a result of
Okay.
that.
Thank you, that's what I
Yeah.
need, because if I'm a staff member, it was like, what you were saying was falling on deaf ears, like, I don't
And
wanna
I
hear
think
that,
that-
I wanna know that I'm safe when I come to work.
And I think that Denise and Colleen can speak to the fact that that was not the case. And I actually think that week, I had a very, very specific and detailed conversation with our administrative team and then sent an email to the staff on, here's what we're gonna do to support you.
Okay.
And it was also sent to the board so that you could see what the actions are associated with our January Institute Day.
Okay.
It was it was a deep, we had to go deep. It's important, so.
It is important, our staff is important,
Absolutely.
their wellness is important.
Yep.
I don't wanna lose any more teachers.
Right. Yep. Nope, we agree. I got you. Anything more? It was just those two. We have our next meeting and we will get even more information for that. We always have unresolved issues that come back, like that's the point. We start with the things that are like repeat. So
Right.
that'll be, I'm sure, at the top of the agenda for next time.
Thank you.
Of course. And then next is conference. Y'all remember? We all went to conference.
forever.
Like a year ago, right? I mean,
such a long
holy cow. Did anybody have anything to share?
You know, I'm just gonna say, one of the refreshing takeaways I had
Yes.
is that as a board, we do not have any of those problems. Like
You go and you hear
seriously.
from other districts and you're like, wow, we are okay.
They're
Yay
okay, the
us.
problems they have with each other, the problems they have with the community, I was like, whoa, no, we don't, no, I don't have to worry about that.
No, we love each other. We love our
So I mean,
teachers.
that
we
was,
love our people.
that was refreshing.
That is refreshing. I always like that.
That was refreshing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. Does anybody else
Our
have any-
pre-conference, I like that one guy that we went.
What did you guys go to? Cause I went to the board president.
What was it called?
Ty Bennett partnership is.
Ty Bennett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wanna read his book, yeah, he was a
Really dynamic speaker.
dynamic speaker,
Nice.
very motivational, and
Yeah.
he was funny and
Oh,
like
hey.
engaging.
It was
Yeah, I know, I'm
great
writing that
start.
down.
Ty Bennett, he just,
Ty like
T-Y,
TY.
yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
great start of the conference.
Yes, it
Was
was a
he
really.
a half day or a full day?
Half day.
Half day.
Okay, okay.
But I mean, like, he does full days and he just talked about what leadership looks like and how
Nice.
successful leadership looks like and he had some funny stories and like just engaged the audience and just really spoke to his heart, like
It was nice. You were engaged the whole time he was talking. Like, you really
For
were
3
paying
hours,
attention and
that's pretty-
laughing
yeah.
and, you
Oh,
know.
that's
Like you
awesome.
didn't want a break, like you know how they give you that little
Oh,
coffee
yeah,
break? It's
yeah.
like, no, we can keep going, cause he just
that's awesome.
really, yeah, he
Yeah.
just was very, have you seen him?
I haven't.
He was great.
Did
He
you
was
see
the
him,
keynote?
No, he was their morning session.
No, but
he
we
was
all
just a
said,
regular
Yeah,
session?
we all said he should be a keynote because.
yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What was the topic? Do you remember?
It was about leadership.
Oh,
It was like, what do good leaders do to keep their people, to bring good people on, to, yeah, it just was, it was very motivational.
Cool.
Like, one of
Maybe
the
we'll find a
questions was like,
webinar.
I know,
what was
right?
the
Like,
question
okay, I
that,
wrote
what
it
was the
down.
question that we all had to answer at the table? Something like, so this lady stood up and talked about how she worked in a prison and how she had to train the inmates in her mailroom. But she was, you know, she was a civilian, you know, she was an employee of the state of Illinois Corrections. But like nobody ever wanted to rotate out of the mailroom because she was such a great leader. And so that's what she shared at our table.
Wow.
And like it just was, and it like why and what did she do to support these women that were, you know, they're not looking at a whole lot in their life, you know. And so yeah, he just really pulled out some very good conversations from people, and yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, we're all like, oh, he should be a
You
keynote.
should keep him, yeah, I like that.
Yes.
So Kim was part of a panel.
How did it
Oh,
go?
Right?
yes, I forgot. Yes, it was nice. How to hire a superintendent.
Yes, our executive search, right?
Our
That was-
executive search, so it went really well, and the room was packed, and so all the ASB, I don't know, I'm out of letters.
And you had a number of people who were lingering
Oh,
asking
yes.
you questions.
They were like asking
Yeah.
questions about our process, cause so there were two of us from school boards, former school board presidents who, then they asked us like, you know, tell us about your process. So we both spoke to our processes, and then, yeah, there was a few people like lining up afterwards, like, I kinda like what you're talking about, and, you know, so it went well, yeah, it was a nice.
So does that mean there's a lot of people hiring for soups?
I mean, there's a shortage. I mean, they can't hire enough they can't graduate enough superintendents to meet the needs of how many districts are still looking, so it's, you know. It's like teachers and administrators,
Yeah, it's
like,
any
there's
other
just,
job
you're
in education
feeling,
right now.
yeah, you're experiencing definitely, a need in the education field, so, yeah, it was good.
I missed you
I know,
because I
because
was
you
a
had to go
delegate.
to a
Yeah,
delegate.
she was a delegate.
Delegate was interesting, but nothing different than what we discussed at our last two meetings, so. And then you all went to lunch.
Yeah.
Jenna, you presented too, right?
We
With
did.
Colleen,
And they
yes.
presented, they
Oh,
were.
two.
Yep,
Yeah,
we
they
presented in the
did.
afternoon. That was
They did
awesome.
great.
It was great, yes, it was a great time, and
That was really fun.
I did get a couple emails from people who were in our
Yep, me too.
session who were, yes, it was exciting
And the
to hear.
presentation was on.
A new superintendent and new strategic plan, all in one year.
Nice.
Yeah, when we laid it all out, I was like, wow, that really was, we did a lot.
And negotiations.
And
all at the
negotiations,
same
oh, and that
I
was
mean,
like
the
as
room
a
was
sideline,
packed.
oh, and we also,
Right?
signed our contract
Your room
for-
was packed, it was a
It
good
was fun,
meeting.
it was fun, it was
Yeah.
really good, and we had good feedback, and,
Yes.
yeah, so that was awesome.
Very good.
And Michael went to a good session, I remember him sharing with me.
Yeah,
What did you go to?
I was enhancing student equity by increasing voice. I don't remember the exact name, but it was about adding a student advisory seat to the board.
Ooh.
And the district that they zoomed in on that was mostly presenting was either a K-12 or a 9-12. So they were talking about their student advisors being, 17, 18 years old. So it seemed like a really good fit there, but so others were there that were like K-8 districts, and we were asking questions about like, have you modeled this out for like K-8? Like I feel like there's a space for that for like our district as well. So it was really encouraging actually to hear new
Presentation.
strands
Yes.
about
Yes.
enhancing equity, because I really would like to see that student committee kind of morph into like an advisory seat or something, because I think we can do it. I think it can be done well, and what better way to increase equity than to give the students a seat at the table.
I think it's an amazing thing to incorporate the students' voice in their buildings, but I don't know about the.
Evergreen Park High School actually has.
Not
school
in
board.
7th and
They have
8th
been
grade.
student school board members that come every month. There's 2 or 3 of them that.
At the high school level, that makes total sense.
Yes.
There's ways to do it where it's not
About elementary school.
the same questions being posed as maybe to like the high school district, but letting students know that all the decisions we're making about them, they're being involved in some way, or at least getting someone to like come back and then report to student government or something that looks like that. I just think
Are
it's too helpful
are they going
dismiss.
to the board meetings?
Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah,
these-
that's a lot.
Evergreen
particular
has
board model has
two
been going to
student, I
meetings.
think they call them student ambassadors, and they actually are I think they are tasked, which my daughter did not want to do. I said to her, do you wanna apply? She's like, no. No. But, yeah, they do they give them tasks and then they report back also.
That's awesome.
I think we do a good job those in some ways, although I agree with you, like, how can we get them more? We are always including children and they do have a voice when they come to board meetings and like we celebrate them. And I'm surprised that other school boards are like, oh, do you really? Like, when you go to these conferences, they're like, oh, we never have kids at.
Again,
So
Oh, no,
we're
I
doing
disagree.
okay
I
with
see them at other school district board
I-
meetings.
I'm
Even
sure they
tonight,
do,
that's where I
yes.
was before I came, and it was like, they had 3 student presentations. So other schools do it, and they do it really well as far as incorporating them coming and sharing what's happening in their in their schools. and at their
It
camp.
surprises me when I hear that they're not, like, oh,
Right,
no.
exactly.
It's like, oh, okay.
That's why we're
like-
here.
That's
Right.
exactly why we're here.
That's why we're here,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
But there are still schools that, I mean, again, like you go to these conferences and you hear some of these stories and.
Horror stories.
And you're like.
Reach is like,
I'm
we're
not saying a
okay.
word, I'm not keeping it, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I agree, there's other schools that do, but it is surprising that there are still schools lagging behind in that desire to
Yeah.
have the kids have a voice, so.
And be visible.
I know,
Right, and
right?
visible,
Wanna
right?
see them.
I loved it when Shannon was able to report out because that was one of the cool things that our strand was able to do.
Yeah, it was great.
And we shared that with everybody too, didn't we?
Yes, yeah.
100 7th graders on DEI.
I love
It was
that.
I loved reading their answers. They were
100%.
really, really very supportive and interested
Super
and
important.
happy to be asked,
Right.
you know?
Super
Should be,
important.
so, cool. Well, thank
All
you.
right.
All right, so we will move on to our action items. So, action item A is our consent agenda. Item 1 is to approve our monthly transaction reports for November 2022. Number 2 is to approve the fund balance reports for November 2022. Number 3 is to approve expenditure report and projected payroll report for December of 2022. Number 4 is to approve board minutes from the regular board meeting of November 15th, 2022. Number 5 is to approve the closed session minutes from the regular meeting of November 15th, 2022. Number 6 is to approve destruction of closed session tapes from August of 2018. And number 7 is to approve the personnel recommendations as listed for additions, FMLA, and a few resignations as well. If I could have a first motion to accept consent agenda item A.
I'll make.
That side of the room, please, yes.
You go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Great, and a second.
I'll make the second.
All right, and a roll call, please.
Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes. Chidi Rayson?
Yes.
Denise Jones?
Yes.
Michael Altmiller?
Yeah.
Claudia Parker?
Yes.
And Colleen Clemzak.
Yes,
Motion is passed.
excellent. Item number B is to approve tenure status for Maura Raleigh. She went home.
She did.
What?
I think it was time for her to.
Coach, I know, she's
Tired.
been very busy. Coach interventionist, effective October 19th of 2022. A first motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, and a roll call.
Claudia Parker?
Yes.
Denise Jones?
Yes.
Michael Altmiller?
Yay.
Chidi Rayson?
Yes.
Kim Leonard, yes. Rachel Merrickwin?
Yes.
And Claudia Parker. Clemzak? Claudia Parker.
It's like me again.
Yeah?
Yeah. Claudia, yeah.
You know, yes, she says yes, I say yes, we're good.
Clemzak, yes. Motion is passed. I'm
The lady over there.
Colleen Parker, Claudia Clemzak.
You there. Okay. Item number C is to approve the fiscal year 23 tax levy as presented this evening. If I could have a first motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Michael, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Claudia, and a roll call, please.
Michael Altmiller,
Yay.
Claudia Parker, Kim Leonard, yes. Chidi Rayson,
Yes.
Rachel Merrickwin,
Yes.
Denise Jones, Colleen Clemzak.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion is passed.
We now will recess to closed session, and I know I have to read my amendment here. We will recess to closed session to discuss the sale or purchase of securities, investments, or investment contacts, or to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity.
I make the first motion.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. And a roll call?
Kim Leonard, yes. Rachel Merricks?
Yes.
Michael Allmiller?
Yay.
Denise Jones?
Yes.
Claudia Parker?
Y'all.
Judy Rayson?
Yes.
And Colleen Clemzak?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
Motion is passed. We will have two action items after we return from closed session, but we will not resume. No, I think we kept y'all late enough tonight, didn't we?
Take your cupcake.
But yeah, we will not resume live streaming, even if we